welcome to my 34th video. It's been an eventful week. I'm having trouble figuring out what to talk about this week, not for a lack of ideas, but rather a swirl of them. My week started out with finding out that my house did not appraise. It was $13,000 short of what I was offered and $5,000 below asking price. I followed this up by having the buyer's requested furnace cleaning done. My reward for this was that I got the delightful news that the furnace is rusted out on the inside and needs to be replaced. James chapter 1 verse 2 says, "Count it all joy, my brothers, when you meet trials of various kinds." So as I was rejoicing in the good fortune of my new trials, I found out that the people who requested the furnace cleaning won't be buying my house because they lost their financing. Well, needless to say, I was becoming tired of all the rejoicing, but God seemed to think I had not rejoiced enough. I got the bonus information that my house was now stuck with this lowball appraisal because my buyer was using FHA, and any future FHA buyer that might come along would get the same appraisal for the next 6 months. So Wednesday came to an end with my house not sold, me unable to buy the new house, a low appraisal, and a $2,500 furnace replacement. My Christ-like response to this was to count my joy, and my calculations worked out to me being out $8,500. So when I got done counting my joy, I asked God, what is going on? Why would he put me through this? The only reason I am even trying to move is because I believe he called me to. Well, the thought to bag the whole thing crossed my mind. If God is not interested in making it work, then I am not interested in doing it. I expressed my dissatisfaction with the situation to a few people and my thoughts on how to handle it. I received traditionally sound and scriptural advice about perseverance and trusting God, and I responded with, perhaps I misunderstood what I was being asked to do, and that God's will is like the Borg and resistance is futile. None of what I was being told landed. I didn't get a full response from God, but I was told to keep working the process. So I did. I put my house back on the market, and 2 days later, I had a much better offer than the deal I lost. Well, this new deal will close 29 days after my original deal was supposed to close. So my thoughts went to maybe the timing was wrong. But that didn't sit right. So anyway, I sat down to start working on this video, and I cited James chapter 1 verse 2 to make wildly sarcastic statements about my opinion of the events of this past week. I guess God figured now was the right time to give me the answers to my questions. He started with, finish reading the sentence. Verse 2 ends with a comma, not a period. So verse 3 says, for you know that the testing of your faith produces steadfastness. So I thought, okay, I am being steadfast. I am working the process. So what gives? God's answer, keep reading, smart guy. On to James chapter 1, verse 4, where it says, and let the steadfastness have its full effect, that you may be perfect and complete, lacking in nothing. Okay, I am killing it. I am not claiming to be perfect or complete, and I am certainly lacking in areas. But that is what this journey I have been on since January is all about. God says, keep reading. Verse 5 says, if any of you lacks wisdom, let him ask God, who gives generously to all without reproach, and it will be given him. I'm feeling good now. I have been praying for wisdom and insight into how to handle the move and the process and how to proceed on my journey. I am like the star pupil here. I am going to ace this class. God's answer, keep reading and look up steadfastness. I proceeded to verse 6. But let him ask in faith with no doubting, for the one who doubts is like a wave of the sea that is driven and tossed by the wind. Huh. God took this moment to do a little chastising. He said to me, your little temper tantrum about how you want to quit because things aren't smooth doesn't sound very steadfast to me. And your response smacks of doubt. How is your test looking now, Gold Star? I got more for you, so keep reading and read the whole next sentence in its entirety. Verses 7 and 8 say, "For the person must not suppose that he will receive anything from the Lord. He is a double-minded man, unstable in all his ways." God told me that I was being double-minded and perhaps a tad entitled when it came to matters of moving. He let me know he would expand on this later, so I kept reading. I will skip verses 9 through 11 because they did not speak to me yet. Let's continue with verse 12. "Blessed is the man who remains steadfast under trial, for when he has stood the test, he will receive the crown of life, which God has promised to those who love him." This was just a reminder of how things could have gone had I remained steadfast. Verse 13 says, "Let no one say when he is tempted, 'I am being tempted by God,' for God cannot be tempted with evil, and he himself tempts no one." The test I thought I was acing is not looking very good now. This verse comes back to my little temper tantrum. I basically accuse God of tempting me by enticing me to move and then throwing up roadblocks to make it a frustrating experience. I would like to have that one back now. Let's move on to verse 14, which says, "But each person is tempted when he is lured and enticed by his own desire." This is where God expanded on what he was saying in verse 8 when he told me I was double minded and entitled. He let me know I had lost focus and that I was no longer following his will but my own, and that I was more concerned with resuming my life in a location I prefer than I am with doing what I was called to do. I had taken his will and converted it into my own, and was pursuing my own desires, not his. On to verse 15, which just happens to be the title of my 6th video. "Then desire, when it has conceived, gives birth to sin, and sin, when it is fully grown, brings forth death." God wanted to remind me I am not the boss of him, which you think I would have a grasp on since my 6th video is about me coming to terms with who I serve, and spoiler alert, it wasn't me. I am sure there are many reasons the events of this past week transpired, but one of the reasons was to get me back on track. My desire to move overtook my desire to serve God, and turned my desire to move from obedience to sin. And God wanted to remind me I live when and where he allows me to. He also showed me I am ungrateful and understand nothing, because through all the stress and frustration of this trial, I did not turn to food for comfort or relief. In fact, I don't remember really even being tempted to turn to food, which means that God is healing me and helping me overcome my addiction. With this in mind, how can I count the experiences of this past week as anything but joy?